Hello, and welcome to IP3 episode 17. Uh, I'm joined today with none other than Alex Becker, and we're going to talk a bit about PT Amsterdam, our new Pro Tour champion, Shoma Yamamura. Had to double check, make sure I didn't mess up the last name. Uh, on Uzuri, interestingly enough.
Called
Uh,
it. Well,
Called
you,
it. I only predicted it for the wrong event. I definitely predicted that for US Nats and not the PT. But it's almost like we just had an episode where we were talking about how specialists uh, are just always a threat in this game. Um, but we'll talk more about that later, as that's more of our main topic for today. A lot more Rosetta spoilers have come up since Amsterdam, partially because they released the First Strike deck lists today for Aurora and Terra, but also partially we just got some more spoilers and some more information during Pro Tour itself,
we got
courtesy of
the last
Ryan
two
Yao.
hero texts revealed, which is the big part that everybody wanted.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that I'm more excited about the Rune Blades in general than the Wizards, because not knowing for just an extra couple months for no particular reason would have been brutal. But yeah, so we have the text on Verdance, Thorn of the Rose, and Auxilio, Constella Intelligence. Um, so Verdance has a sort of a threshold mechanic, kind of similar to Florian. Um, and so her text is: if there are 8 or more Earth cards in your banished zone, Verdance gets, whenever you gain life during your turn, you may deal 1 arcane damage to any opposing target. Uh, I will say this is a wizard that can laugh in the face of Dromai, which is kind of cool. um, Not that that is in any way relevant to CC, uh, but kind of neat. Kind of neat. Definitely, has 40 life. Notably, it is a wizard with a starting life total of 40. Um,
I think she's the only one, right?
I think so. Yeah, because it's Kano and Blaze are both lower, Icelander's lower, and our accompaniment to Verdance, Auxilio, starts with 36 life. And he is the lightning counterpart. His ability is quite simply once per turn instant, discard an instant card, draw a card. So you can fuse with a lightning card if you have like a lightning instant that you wanted to do something with. You can fuse using that lightning card and then cycle it out of your hand for some other value. I think there's a very reasonable chance that there's a lot more to it than that, right? Like there could be lightning mechanics around discarding cards. The weapon for Auxilio cares about, I think, cards with sigil in
Sigils.
the name in play, like sigils in
Yeah.
play. So there's definitely Auxilio is definitely still the hero we know the least about in terms of what the heck. Uh, I guess I'll go with they, given that they are just a large sentient golem creature.
Construct.
Yeah, just yeah, large construct, and I don't really know what. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how Auxilio comes together once we see more of the set.
Well, I know that it is a wizard, but even if you play something that is lightning fuse, and let's say it's an attack, and then you to fuse it, show a lightning card or lightning press rather. It's like, okay, is your opponent going to block around the lightning press? And if they do, then you just discard it and cycle and draw another card. Or they don't block around it and you just hit them for extra damage.
Having a lightning press in your arsenal is one of the even a known one is just one of the most demoralizing things you can do to an opponent.
Yeah.
Uh,
I
the other interesting part, though, or the other big new mechanical spoiler that we got, I guess there's two. First one being split cards. Uh, so we got to see. I think we saw three or four of them where the split cards are one half, or at least the ones we've seen so far. There's a left half that is
We've seen
a.
5.
Seen five?
Yeah, we've got
Which one
5
am I
of them.
missing? Comet Storm. Oh yeah, okay, sorry. We've seen three. Yeah, so we've seen three that are arcane leaning and three that are more earth, or sorry, lightning and earth leaning. Um, so the simplest one is probably all right. So there's one that's called Comet Storm, and the other half is Shock. So each of these split cards are two cards. Comet Storm is a two cost, five arcane wizard action. Shock is a lightning instant that is deal one arcane damage to any target. You can play both halves of it, but each half costs the same cost of that is printed on the card, right? So Comet Storm is a 2 for 5 arcane spell. If you want to tag Shock onto that just for funsies, you pay 2 again um, to get that value. So it's interesting when it comes to Auxilio. This card is half action, half instant, but knowing what I know of how card legality and just Venn diagrams and logic works, you can almost certainly discard this to Auxilio and cycle it out and draw a new card if you want to. So
Yeah.
um, it's a very interesting. I don't know. It's. I expected this at some point in Fab. There was always going to have to be split cards of some kind. It's probably sooner than I expected them, but it's neat design space to play in. And currently, though, it seems like all the secondary effects, the instant halves of these cards, are sort of minor add-ons to it that like synergize with it slightly, but it's not like okay, I've got a pair of 2 for 5 arcane spells that I can just cast both of them. It's not like that. So the lightning ones have a shock on the back end, which shock matches the cost of the other half of the card. So there's a version that is burn up slash shock. That burn up is a zero cost Runeblade action. Shock is a subsequently zero cost lightning instant. So you just get to play both halves of that card without paying any resources.
Pretty good.
Pretty good, especially for how much So Runeblades reward you for playing non-attacks to like augment your attacks, and the new motif that we've seen of these elemental heroes is they basically they want to give you payoffs for doing your thematic thing, right? So they want you to play a lightning card per turn at minimum to give you sort of like a payoff or incentive to do so.
I was not so jazzed or interested in Rosetta just because I'm not that into Rubles, not that into Wizards. But Verdance has piqued my interest, which is weird because if anybody knows me, they know I just play 3 classes and I just figure out something in there. And Wizard is not one of those classes. But I don't know. Something about just like playing big earth attacks and then just healing on the back end while also dealing arcane damage for that healing. I don't know. It appeals to me. So see what happens.
Yeah,
The
it's
other,
gonna be
sorry, go ahead.
intriguing. No, it's just I was just gonna say it's gonna be an intriguing combination of design space, right? Because like you said, Earth, you think big, meaty attacks, but also Wizard, you think fragile and arcane and evasive. But then also the Earth aspect that she sort of is also leaning into is that life gain thing that I expect we'll see quite a few more cards with life gain kind of stapled onto them in some way, shape, or form. But interesting to see how
Because
that develops.
the meld cards that are earth and not lightning, all the lightning ones, the right side of them are shock, the instant. But the right side of all the earth ones that we've seen so far is life, which is just gain 1. Like pulsing aether slash life is a wizard action slash earth instant that costs 1. So you can pay 1 to deal 4 arcane damage to any target with pulsing aether, and then also pay an extra 1 to heal 1. So healing 1 for 1 resource is not that good. healing one, and also dealing a point of arcane damage because your verdance is a little bit better.
Yeah, and honestly, I think you're right. The rate on I'll pay a resource to gain a life isn't necessarily good. You don't design your turn around making sure that you can pay a resource to gain a life. But
Right.
at the same time, you know, awkward hands happen, weird things happen, and the flexibility to have an extra resource sink built onto your card to give you some other value is just it's
Yeah,
good
this
design
is
space.
I mean, the pulsing aether is either a 1 for 4, scalding rain, cool, or it's a 2 for 5, assuming that verdance ability online. Well, 2 for 6 technically. So it's just better Voltic Bolt if you are all set up with your banish zone and can afford to pay for both halves of it. So it's giving you payoff and above rate for having your hero set up where their ability is online, as well as like playing into these cards.
Yeah,
Has me interested.
yeah. There's a lot of intrigue about this new set. The Also, we did finally get confirmation on the powers of Earth Form and Lightning Form, which Lightning Form is the lightning attack that's it's a 1 for 5 that if it hits it makes an embodiment of lightning. Earth Form, similar deal. It's a 3 for 7 on hit makes an embodiment of Earth. Um, both just uh, maybe not necessarily pack one pick oneable. We'll have to see more of the set to really decide that, but I'd imagine that Earth Form is a pack one pick one type card.
Has there ever been a set where a 3 for 7 wasn't any good?
It's not
I
even
don't
just a
remember
three
one.
for seven. That's the craziest part.
Well,
Like
well,
the
right, 3 for 7 with upside.
yeah, yeah. I mean, we had heavy hitters where there's 3 for 7s galore. It was like 3 for 7 the format to an extent. But those, and so sometimes if your wage agility hits, you can make it so that the agility value is higher than one. But
If it
wage
doesn't
bigger,
hit,
wage
then you
gold.
gave your opponent the agility.
Right, exactly. Like Earthform is a 3 for 7 that has no downside, but the ceiling is closer to a 3 for 10, right? Like if you're a wizard deck playing Earthform, you're going to be running a lot of non-attack actions, and if you take your turn, throw Earthform, and then block 12 with 3 cards on your next turn, like that's big game. That's really strong. Um,
Yeah.
the
The one
other,
thing,
oh, go ahead.
sorry, pause. One thing that I will say, if we get a meld card that ends up being a Runeblade non-attack action and a Runeblade attack at the same time, Cryptic Crossing, Deathly Duet, all those
Oh,
cards become
you're speaking
incredible.
my language. It just has to be blue. It has to be blue.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, like doesn't even have to be that good. I don't need to dive into what it could be. It's useless speculation. We'll see. But yeah, I would love to play Cryptic Crossing more. Right now, I just play it in Chain. Um, so the other, so there's one more thing we should touch on, which is the new macro card for like the limited environment. But before we do that, there's a couple more interesting things from the first strike decks just to touch on. So we got weapons um, for
Aurora and
Aurora
Terra.
and Terra, and Aurora's weapon is, I think, pretty good. So it's a two-handed sword called Starfall. It is a lightning rune blade, or is it elemental? I forget what the typing is. It's not Rosetta Thorn. This or I can't run this one way or another. Nor would he want to because it would suck for him. But Starfall is at its base, it is a two-handed one-power weapon. But for each uh, for each lightning card you play in your turn, Starfall gets +1 and it gets go again for the turn. So if you play one per turn, you're looking at a weapon that is a two go again for one resource kind of card. Uh, I think it's you had a good point earlier today that it's interesting that normally you look at weapons as like chain ender type tools, but when your weapon has go again, all bets are off. Like this is a very different. it's going to be a very different looking, like average play pattern for this weapon.
Well, Viscerize always has to ask himself the question: do I end this turn with Nebula Blade to threaten the on hit of Rune Chant, or do I end with this attack that doesn't have go again? But with this weapon, it's like, well, I can do both. I have an extra resource that's just an extra 2 damage. It pairs really well, costing 1 with Aurora's ability, which costs 2. So pitching a blue gets you 2 damage and a embodiment of lightning for your next turn. That's pretty good floor for a
Yeah,
for a blue.
yeah, I think that's the part that I'm most excited about is it being a one cost weapon means that a blue, whether you're going Starfall into insert your own 2 for 6, right? Weakest link, CNC, amnesia, whatever is called for, or oh, it's actually better for me to set up this embodiment of lightning and arsenal the 2 for 6 and lead off with this next turn. Um, yeah, it's Starfall is. I think it's going to be sneaky good. It looks kind of unassuming, but it's very flexible. What it brings to the we also got a few more like elemental rune blade with various lightning synergies. A handful of those are bound to be good and playable staple type cards, right? Like you're looking at like nimblism variants and twists on sort of a lot of the Aria OG kind of like basic card function cards.
We're not going to talk through all the first strike deck cards, but if you want to see them, the deck lists are on the Bad TCG website.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I will say about the first strike decks and Rosetta so far is that my main complaint about Arya 1.0 was that the elemental heroes didn't actually have to run elemental cards, but everything that I'm seeing so far, like Florian, you got to have Earth cards in your banish zone to have a hero ability.
Yeah,
Verdance is the same thing. You got to have Earth cards in your banish zone. Aurora, you have to play Lightning cards.
yeah. Aurora
Uh,
wants to play at minimum one lightning card per turn.
right. And your weapon, Aurora's weapon, now requires you to play a Lightning card for it to be active, or else it's just a Kodachi without go again. um, so there's just a lot of you're an elemental hero, you now have to run elemental and that element cards, which is A plus.
Very welcome change from Arya days of
Yeah.
old.
All the best version of the Arya decks was the Fuseless Lexi. It's like running some ice cards just to have frostbites, and then Briar. Best version of that was the Cheerios Briar. It's just like all 0 cost attacks and non-attacks that aren't elemental, but she still gets the embodiment of lightning. And then by the end, Oldhim was barely running any. Like it was just all the best Guardian cards because you had access to all the regular and elemental Guardian cards. But now, now if you want to play an elemental hero, you gotta play the elemental hero.
Yeah,
Love it.
it's gonna be sweet. It's shaping up to be a really set so far. I think a solid spiritual successor to OG Arya without, hopefully, without the power level concerns. But burn that bridge when we come to it. The last thing I want to touch on before we move on from Rosetta stuff is a new card type altogether that they unveiled at the PT that is a macro, which is basically like a world enchantment from Magic or something like that, right? It's a something that just sits in play and is a thing. Like it just um, they could have named this like card type like arbitrary game piece, and it kind of just means the same thing. So Sanctuary of Aria is a token aura that starts in play, and it has what was the helmet in
Helios Miter.
Helios Miter from Uprising. It has that activated ability on it. Um,
Pay 2, prevent the next 1 damage that would be dealt to your hero this turn by a source of your choice, and then destroy this at the beginning of your end phase. So if
After
you're
you've
being dealt
activated it.
three, yeah, uh, if you're being dealt 3 arcane damage, you can pitch 2 3 times for a total of 6 to prevent 3. But
Yeah, so
at the end of that turn, it'll be destroyed.
it's one turn use because it's not one time use, but it's Helios Miter that doesn't take an equipment slot. Um, my my suspicion on that, because it's really easy to look at this and be like, oh well, why not just print another Helios Miter, right? Give it new art and just sort of put it back in. Um, my suspicion is given that we are going to, and everybody has an arcane set where arcane barrier is not something that is in this set. Um, so I'm confident we'll see Spell Void. I'm guessing the Spell Fray equipment is a common equipment piece that's just in the set. Um, and I'm sure we'll see other, new variations. Wouldn't be surprised to see a new type of prevention or like cycle of prevention type effects. Um, but I'm guessing that what they found is they couldn't give up an equipment slot and still like have it feel balanced, right? They couldn't be like everybody has this helmet and still have arcane not feel too busted. I
Well,
think you
because the wizards just get an automatic advantage if they get to go first, and there's no arcane barrier in the set. It's just like the spell fray, like you're saying, which is not confirmed, but we're just assuming. But like if I'm playing Verdance in limited, and I just like go first, play pulsing Aether, like come in for 4 arcane damage, like okay, you just start the game at 16 life, and then I get to set up an arsenal and cool. Where Sanctuary kind of like evens that out a little bit.
yeah, it good use of Helios Miter was was the difference in plenty of Uprising games. And I know thinking back on it, like I played against Pablo Pintor day 2 of that PT, and I know like thinking back on that game, I'm like, why didn't I just like dump my whole hand here and save a couple points, right? I only lost by a few points. If I had just been a little less in love with my cards, maybe I steal that game instead of just getting stomped because he hate drafted both pairs of tide flippers that would have passed to me because he was to my left. uh,
Wait, you remember that?
I do. I really did. He
Oh,
showed he
crazy.
showed them to me. He showed them to me. uh, but now Pablo's great. Our games were delightful. But yeah, no, it's a cool thing. It's a good safety valve. I don't I don't know that I necessarily love that it's like not an equipment slot, but I seeing a new card type for this sort of purpose makes me think that you know they didn't want to dedicate a slot to be the sanctuary of Aria slot that okay, well I guess we can't print helmets because everybody's going to need this for limited kind of thing. But I'm sure it'll play nice, and it's you know at the very least if you like imagine either being a new player or just kind of getting cut on equipment out of a draft. This is the safety valve, like Alex was talking about, where you aren't just going to necessarily give up, you know, 4 or 5 points of life on turn 0 just because you didn't get any equipment that could block arcane.
Yeah. So the last thing we've seen that we'll talk about uh, is a set of rares coming, generic rares coming in um, Rosetta that follow similar patterns that we're used to. So there's Hand Behind the Pen, which is a red 2 for 6, block 2, generic attack. When it hits, turn a card in the opponent's arsenal face up, and then banish a non-attack action revealed this way. So CNC light if it's a non-attack action. But then we also have Smash Up, which is a 1 for 5, block 2. The same if it hits, but instead of a non-attack, it's an attack. And then Tongue Tied, which is a 3 for 7, block 2. If it's an instant, it gets destroyed.
Tongue Tide's going to be particularly good in the limited environment and probably not playable elsewhere. Just not enough instants get played on average, but the split cards being split with actions and instants just means there's going to be more frequency of instant cards available to bash with it. Um,
Yeah.
but but
I don't
Smash
know if
Up,
that's like
the 1 for 5 that destroys attacks, I think that one is uh it's not, I don't think it's quite gonna hit like weakest link levels of play, but if any of them do, that's my pick for which one it is, because disruption on a one cost is relatively rare.
I don't know. I don't know if that's necessarily true on Tongue Tied. I mean, it'll definitely depend on the meta, but if the top of the meta is the Mistfield heroes and the Rosetta heroes, there's quite a few instances. You got all the Transcend cards. You got Enigmas, auras that she wants to play. Uh, you've got Art of War from Zen. If they Arsenal a Tiger, then you. Well, I guess that's not an instant. It's just a block. That's an attack.
Yeah,
But
like,
depending.
and you can make them burn it because it's like, all right, it could be good. I just not quite seeing it as much there. Seems the most
Everybody's
conditional to
always
me.
going to play attacks. The meta will depend if a bunch of people are playing instants.
True, true.
So
Um, but yeah. So Rosetta shaping up pretty nicely. I think actual spoilers are still a ways off. I think we're only going to see.
there's only 5 more coming before the main
Yeah,
event or
I
the
I don't know
world
if
premiere.
they're spoiling. Well, we don't know yet. They might be like spoiling the legendaries or something, and then letting the world premiere be the time to open up and find all the other, find the majestics and everything like that. Not exactly sure, but cool that they're trying different things with spoiler season.
Well, their spoiler season schedule, basically each big event like Battle Harden or Calling, they're going to reveal a card or two. So maybe it's the weapons and
That'd
stuff.
be nice. Yeah, I
So
want
that
to know what
you
the heck Florian's grabbing out of the tree stump, because it
yeah.
looks epic. it look it looks really sweet. Um, but
Well, we don't
yeah,
know.
so that's enough Rosetta for now. It's cool. It's gonna be great. Can't wait to see more, but just gotta wait. Um, can't. I'm a little disappointed that you're not gonna be able to come down to the world premiere in Tampa.
Yeah, makes me sad. It would make me even more sad if Lexi was returning, but
That yeah, fair. That's their consolation prize, is that your hero stays LL'd without a replacement for now. But now I wouldn't be surprised if so they announced originally it was going to be just 4 armory decks in 2024. At some point, or I think it was just at the PT, they're like, actually, there's going to be a 5th one. It's going to be the first new hero via armory deck, and I would not be surprised if that is.
Terra is my vote.
Huh?
I think it'll be Terra, personally.
I think that'd be cool, but yeah, like Terra or Lightning Ranger, um, both seem similarly likely to me. But
Yeah. They did also announce a bunch of announcements. The Guardian Master set, which I think would be cool,
oh yeah, this was at
coming in
first,
2025.
initial impression is they saw what happened with bright lights and decided to never do that again, kind of thing. um, so the it's a set that's it's mono class, or it's not necessarily 100% Guardian cards, but they're all Guardian playable cards, I believe was what was implied. So there could be some generics in there too.
And there
Um,
will be new cards, they said.
yeah, and then majority new cards, which that part seems kind of wild to me.
It's like the expansion sets, except for one specific class. So you can just kind of dump a
The
whole set
supplemental
on a
sets,
class. Yes, yeah,
supplemental.
that's what I meant. Because they got away from supplemental and draft and are not just doing draft sets, but being able to inject love as needed to certain classes, I think is a good idea.
Yeah,
And it'll be a super easy point and be like, oh, I'm just during the game. I played the Terra deck. I love Guardian. What should I buy? the master set for
Yeah,
Guardian.
yeah. I think it's a very smart niche for them to have a product to occupy, right? Like, because if
Then you don't have to.
what,
Then you
what
don't
what
have to
would you
go.
point to someone to right now, right? Like, oh, Welcome to Wraith, which is out of print, but I guess you can buy history packs, or Heavy Hitter has some stuff, but not for Bravo. It's only for this one. Like, it's so scattered that yeah, having a place where the class typing will be more condensed and player growing their collection friendly makes a lot of sense.
You kind of know what you're gonna get out of the box rather than, oh, I bought this out of print box so I could get Bravo cards. And I only open two Guardian Majestics, and now I've got all these cards I don't care about. But
See, I'm excited though conceptually for the product because even if it doesn't like fit into a normal draftable expansion, that seems like the place where I could get stuff like cost shifted, like Rune Flash and Amplify the Arknight sort of stuff. Like, if that's we haven't seen cards similar to what they print in Arcane Rising in a fair while now, and yeah, maybe they just don't quite fit into their draft set plans, but give me a 2 for 5 version of Amplify the Arknight, and I'll be a happy camper. Like there's just so many existing designs they could just tweak and be like, awesome, here's this new card, and I will just snap it up.
all
Um,
right, on
so
to what we're actually
yeah,
talking about.
on to the main topic, which we'll see if that part's as long as the first half hour of this pod. But our Eclipse folks went out to Amsterdam, had a bit of a rough main event. Not did not quite have the stellar showing in Amsterdam that we had at LA, but Jesse Hudak leading the squad with an 8-0 start in the calling. He was one of the only two undefeateds going into day two. He was playing Zen, just crushing people left and right. Uh, Unfortunately, he was not able to convert that into a top 8 appearance, but it happens. Pro tours are hard, callings are hard,
Yeah.
but still, it's crazy just to start 8-0 though. That's uh, tough to do. But he's playing Zen. His deck is a Zen deck is a Zen deck is a Zen deck. There's nothing crazy there. Where there is maybe some craziness is our Pro Tour champion Shoma's Uzuri list.
Yeah. So I wanted to figure out a way to get um, some info on Shoma because Alex won Worlds playing Fi, and he's from Greece, and that's all I know about him. I mean, that could be on me for not like seeking out more information, but I also feel like there just hasn't been a lot of info out there. So I reached out to my buddy Ben, who lives in Japan. Shout out for the info, just to see like what who who is this Shoma guy that just like showed up to the Pro Tour and playing Uzuri, and took it all down. So we got some insider information. Um, so Shoma actually runs a shop called Go Again in Osaka. I think it's the only um, game store fully dedicated to Fab in Japan.
I don't know
I
if it's
don't
the only, but it's
know that for
definitely the
sure.
first. They mentioned that in the finals or in the some of the top 8 coverage, but he,
Okay.
first one in Japan for sure.
So if you're going to Worlds in Osaka, check it out.
That shop is going to
um,
be just beyond busy because how do you not visit the reigning Fab PT champions game store when you're in their hometown while you're like you're there for Worlds? It's going
yeah,
to be the most insanely packed armory ever.
yeah. So Kevin predicted the that Azuri is a dark horse deck for the national season. Turns out one season too early.
Ah,
And
fun
then
times.
the last podcast, you guys talked about the level X deck, where it's just like you just play your hero no matter what. And that is Shoma with Uzuri. He's been playing that same deck since he started Fab. Um, the deck list has actually been public on February for months now. He played a very similar thing at Road to Nationals and ProQuests and took a, I think, almost identical, like very similar, maybe some tweaks for the Pro Tour meta, but he got second at Japan Nationals. So he's definitely
Definitely falls
definitely
into the
experienced
specialist
on the deck.
category.
Yeah. Um, and obviously the deck list has been public for a while, so obviously pilot skill has something to do with it because nobody else seems to be winning with Uzuri. Um,
Yeah, I think there was only two in the whole PT. I think the other one was Tao Tao.
oh yeah.
I think it was literally just the two of them. But even Tao Tao, I think also got like top 64 with it. So like 100% day two conversion, 100% top 64 conversion. Small sample size, but I mean only one more data point and then you've got a line, right? Like
So Ben let me know that Shum has been terrorizing his local scene with this deck for months now. Um, and the deck can just play any sized hands, like fives, like we saw in the finals. It just kept getting 5 card hands, where it's just like damage and disruption. Totally good with that. Can play um, any size hands basically. So it's immune. Well, I guess immune is not the correct word. Virtually immune to bad draws, and even the middling cards in the deck still block for 3. So when your opponent sends a CNC, it's like, okay, these 2 cards are the worst 2 cards in my hand, but they still block 3. So just throw those guys down. Um, Also, like we saw in the top 8, the flexibility of the deck just makes it very hard to make good choices in blocking. Um, there was a couple times that the casters were looking at both hands and being and saying there's no good way to block this. If you block it, then Shuma's just gonna shred it, and if you don't block it, then you're gonna get this hit by this disruptive attack. He's gonna arsenal shred. So there's no good choices here. Um, another fun fact I found out is the tokens that he used, and you saw on stream that aren't sleeved like a normal normal fab player usually sleeves their tokens. Uh, they
I
are
don't
the
know.
same tokens.
Talk to Mark Morrison if you want to talk normal. I don't. Mark used the same pile of beat up
Yeah, Mark is not
Ash and
normal.
Ashwing. That's okay. Fair. That's you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Mark told me yesterday he would proxy his whole deck if it was legal.
Yep, that
But
tracks.
Shoma's tokens are heavily played, and the edges are just like basically frayed at this point. Um, and the last fun fact is that Shoma, I guess, has been taking English lessons for the past couple months, and it definitely paid off with all the interviews that he had to do for winning the Pro Tour.
What foresight to know that you're gonna travel to Amsterdam, win an event, people from all over the world, and the foresight to be like, well, this is clearly gonna happen, so I guess I should take English lessons so I can do these interviews. Incredible.
Worked out.
Yep.
Time well spent.
Called shot successfully. Um,
So hopefully that sheds some light for everybody onto our new Pro Tour champion.
yeah, I
What?
the trophy awarding ceremony was really cool. I don't know, it's the vibe the vibe he gave off in accepting all of that, and then uh, when they gave him the Uzuri cold foil like prize card, kind of just broke down. But uh, Yeah, I
Because
don't
that's
know.
that's his hero.
Yeah.
That's like if that's that's like if you had won the first Pro Tour on chain.
Don't remind me. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's awesome. I have a suspicion. I know that at least the first few of those were flipped for cash pretty quickly, but I would not be surprised if that Cold Foil Uzuri is just gets a very prominent home in his game shop back in Osaka and just kind of lives there as a really dope trophy. But,
Yeah.
yeah, congrats, Shoma Yamamura.
Turns
I
out
keep
all you
like I've got old Magic player names in my head too, and I need to not conflate them. But
Yeah, turns out if you want to see the Pro Tour winning list, just go on February to Shoma's like last four deck lists, and they're all basically the same,
yeah,
with a couple of new cards added just for the meta.
yeah, I
Do
think
you want to talk about
that
interesting?
yeah the most interesting thing about Shoma's list, I think to an extent, is almost how unremarkable it is when you first when you first look at it. Uh,
Oh, this is an Uzuri list.
yeah, like just about every card in this list I've like seen in lists before, right? So the equipment suite, um, it was pretty standard, right? So had Spider's Bite, Scale Peeler, and Nerve Scalpel. Scale Peeler being particularly important for messing with Zen's fridge when it was trying to look for an opening to go off. Um, Tunic, because duh, of course it's Tunic. Flick Knives and Vambrace of Determination were the glove options. Vambrace is there for Enigma, and I can't imagine anything else, any other matchups. Uh,
Maybe Prism.
yeah, that's fair. Maybe Prism. Uh,
Probably not though.
Black Tech
Work
Whisperers.
Knives might should be
Well,
better.
but you have a decent amount of like 1 for 4, or like, I guess there's not that many. Unclear, but definitely for Enigma.
We don't play
uh,
Uzuri.
no, we are not Codex pilled. Uh,
You've got Crown of Providence for like the Assassin Mirror, I would assume, because it's just threatening your arsenal constantly.
yeah,
And
the
then
Assassin
Balance of
Mirror, and
Justice.
anywhere that you're not getting Blood Rush Ballad or Art of Ward,
Yep.
right? Black Tech Whispers for the boots are just great value in general. Um, they blocked with, popped, rebought, and blocked with again in the finals match if I'm not mistaken. So made them
Hmm.
look very good. And that's it. That's the equipment suite. Uh, this brave but also potentially very wise madman did not bring anything to fight Kano. They decided that if I can't aggro this Kano to death, I will die. Not an AB, no Oasis anywhere in this list. And it's a bold choice, but it's a good choice. You know why? Because if you don't run AB and that other crap, you can do things that a lot of other people didn't do, uh, like run 3 full copies of Amnesia in your sideboard. I know we saw Command and Conquer and Weakest Link everywhere, but I don't think enough people probably packed their Amnesias too. Um, so the
We did see it deny quite a bit of damage on one of Zen's turns, where they had Chase the Tail, and it turned off the go again for Chase the Tail, and then also turned off the buff on the Crouching Tiger for the Kakara. So
yeah yeah
six damage and and blocked quite a bit of damage as well.
card's real good. Uh, and so like the blue suite, there's 15 blues: Bonds of Agony, Blue Isolate, Persuasive Prognosis, Pick to Pieces, and Surgical Extraction. All pretty reasonable, commonplace. Pick to Pieces is the most replaceable, but clearly that's just with Vambrace to respect the potential presence of Enigma, I'm sure. And then potentially
Also pretty good
Prism
with
as
just the
well.
Nick.
Yeah,
Going up
very
going
good
up
with
to
just the
seven
Nick.
specifically.
Yeah. Um,
7 can't be prevented.
the yellows were Codex of Frailty, Isolate, Yellow Shred, and then 3 copies of Spreading Plague, which I imagine that is part of the plan into Victor in particular. If I had to guess, um, in the reds, I'll just go alphabetical. But we got 3 Amnesia, 3 Command and Conquer, 3 Death Touch, 3 E-Strike, 3 Fate Foreseen, 3 Hurl, 2 Inertia Trap, three
Love that.
Inflict, 3 Justin Nick, 3 Leave No Witnesses, 3 Looking for a Scrap, 3 Shakedown, 3 Red Shred, uh, 3 Sink Below, and 3 The Weakest Link. Of everything in this list, like the stuff that I've seen the least, and not to say that I've followed Uzuri closely in its developments, but like the things that come closest to qualifying as like weird or out of the ordinary to me are Justinic, Inertia Trap, and Red Shred. But all of those are cards that I've seen in lists before at various points in time. Um, it's it's cool that someone came through with something that isn't like, ooh, look, I broke this in half. I'm playing 30 cards different from any conventional list, and I found this crazy combo or this really strange thing. It's like, no, this is just you know, rock solid deck building principles, solid
Inertia
rate,
trap.
consistent disruption, and just executing your game plan consistently.
Inertia trap is the only 2 of in the list. Everything else is 3 of. And I
Clean.
bet, I bet you could probably get away in the Zen meta with not running Vambrace of Determination and just go to 3 Inertia trap too. Just make it super clean.
Uh, that's
Probably
that's
not.
actually really funny though.
Yeah, I do love the Inertia trap though, because what do you want to do against assassins? Like set up, have a big turn that they can't block it all out. Like find a spot where they don't have the disruption. It's like, all right, I'm gonna send this E-strike for 7, arsenal this card, set a 5-card hand. Oh, Inertia trap says that I just blocked 6 on your 7, and you don't get an arsenal. Now my Codex is online. I make you discard a card, then put a card back in your arsenal. Send it, leave no witness. I love it. As a
Yeah,
Riptide gamer, I love it.
yeah. I'm definitely. I could sleeve this up and play it. It's solid. There's no, yeah. When you were describing it, there's no cards that you're scratching your head on. The stuff that is a little more niche has very clear purpose, right? Like you don't accidentally end up with 3 Red Shred over 3 Blue Shred, which I feel like sort of used to be the more commonly seen version. But into Guardians or into people that are on Sync and Fate. Actually, Red Shred's probably potentially another like new, or not new, um, Enigma concession. Just like trying to make sure that you can get your damage through to be popping the wards, everything. But yeah, it just looks great. I think I'd be interested to see how to what degree this is favored into both new and Zen, because that's sort of is the easy takeaway to land on after the event, right? Like there
I
was.
think I think a lot of people are gonna be like, "Oh, this is the Pro Tour winning list. I'm gonna go and play my locals with it," which I think is fair. I think Azure is cool. I think you'll probably struggle. Shoma is this is his hero. He knows the matchups inside and outside. My guess is that New and Zen at the Pro Tour were not grinding a bunch against Uzuri and like trying to figure out that matchup. Where I'm sure Shoma was the other way around, where it's like, okay, I'm just practicing against New and Zen. I'm gonna figure out those matchups because and Enigma because all the past heroes I've already played against. I know my matchups, so I literally have to learn 3 new matchups and then at that point, it's just like practicing, staying fresh, and let me figure out Mist Veil Limited.
Yeah,
Like,
fair.
that's a great spot to be.
If only we knew if Shoma used the the mono mystic strat. That'd be funny. I'm actually not sure what I I watched a lot of day one coverage and then I missed a lot of day two and day three, unfortunately. But um, went back and watched the top eight. Those were some pretty good games. Double Justinic was kind of gross.
Rude.
Yeah.
So rude.
By the way,
Just the
plus 10.
game's the game's over. By the way. All right.
Cool. Uh,
That's all I got. Anything?
no, I think that's all I got too. Um, we're entering an interesting uh relative quiet period coming up for the next few months. So there's no what? So it's about to be August, September, October. So for the next, so we have 3 months until Worlds in Osaka. Um, there are a few callings and plenty of battle hardens, and then um, the world premiere of Rosetta a little over a month from now in Tampa, Florida. I'm gonna be going to that. It's gonna be sweet. Um, but like, there's no, yeah,
Well,
we have
there's
a quiet
Living
few months
Legend.
until uh, later in
Living
October.
Legend calling.
Ah, yes, that
Living Legend calling.
that is bound to be sweet. I love that Midmax got it. That's that just cracks me up because uh, they are the infamous unbanned Duskblade crew. Just it's just fitting.
Please don't unban Dustblade.
Yeah, no. The funniest part, it might not even. Well, in LL, I don't think it's good enough. There's too many cards that didn't exist when it was first being printed that are good and can screw up the plan of what it's trying to do. But
You would know better than I.
yeah, I've thought it through. I don't think it's better than Rosetta Thorn most of the time.
That is insane, if that's true. All right. Well,
Last but not least, yeah, like you said, so we have LL Calling that's in Chicago, Illinois, in December, hosted by MinMax Games. Uh, our next episode, episode 18, we're going to actually be talking some Blitz and Living Legend. We're going to do a bit of a preview on those formats before skirmish season hits. So be on the lookout for those. I will, as always, have infinite things to say about Chain. Um, but yeah, no, there's some other. Turns out Zen is also really good in both of those formats too. Spoiler alert. That's going to be a pretty major major talking point. But well,
the Hammers is good with Tigers, turns out.
yes, it is. Yes, it is. But we'll all fight through the Crouching Tiger onslaught together and win with other things that aren't Zen.
Leave us a comment on what you think of the meld cards. I've never played a card game that's had cards like that, so I'll be interested to see how it all plays out on the table. But
Big same. And yeah, let us know which of the four Rosetta heroes you're most excited for and interested in playing. Well,
yep.
we won't keep you any longer. Thanks for hanging out on another episode of IP3. Catch you next time. See ya.